welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 329 for the 8th of February 2015. Happy birthday! Happy birthday to you, if it's your birthday. If it's not your birthday, I think there's a song about that from one of the Disney movies, isn't it? Very Merry Unbirthday. Happy birthday to all those people having a birthday, of course. I'm surprised I don't say this every week. No, I'm not. That would be tedious. So, 8th of February, people, you're very lucky. Coming up on this week's show, we catch up with one of our foundation members of the Skeptic Zone, Dr. Rachie. Dr. Rachie, who has been sort of on leave from the Skeptic Zone owing to her extremely important scientific research. Hardly any time to do anything. Dr. Rachie's off to Melbourne to live for a while and then off for other adventures. However, Maynard catches up with Dr. Rachie just the other day when we had skeptics in the pub here in Sydney. What's Dr. Rachie up to now? What's her thoughts about the state of scientific funding in Australia? Find out at the top of the show. And then it's the Raw Skeptic Report with the Raw Skeptic herself, Heidi Robertson. Heidi's going to be giving us an update. An update about a story she did a few weeks ago about raw milk. Do people really bathe in raw milk? I want evidence of that. I suppose they do. You'd have to buy an awful lot of it to fill up your tub. Jump in and... Anyway, an update about raw milk with Heidi Robertson coming up. And you might notice that Heidi's report sounds even better this week because thanks to the ongoing support and generosity of listeners just like you, happy birthday, by the way, I was able to buy Heidi a wonderful new Zoom H2N microphone, the one I'm using right now. And I don't get any kickbacks from Zoom, by the way, but it just happens to be a nice microphone for podcasting. So I bought that for Heidi, posted it off to her, and she's using that now. So, when you do chip into the Skeptic Zone, your money actually goes back into the Skeptic Zone for very good uses. And after that, we catch up with Dr. Bob, the mysterious Dr. Bob from Dr. Bob's Trivia Quiz. Now, Dr. Bob, also known as Dr. Steve Roberts, is a sponsor of the Skeptic Zone. And we greatly, greatly appreciate his help in bringing you the Skeptic Zone each week. So we catch up with Steve, have a little chat to him. And over the coming weeks, he drops by and has some more chats. Steve Roberts is a long-time skeptic. He's a life member of Australian Skeptics. He's investigated many things. He has a love for investigating UFOs and things like that. So we'll find out more about Steve Roberts, also known as the mysterious Dr. Bob. And following that, it's a week in science from the Royal Institution of Australia, www.riaus.org.au. What a popular segment that is. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's Fred the cat. Hello, Fred. How are you? Yeah, Fred, yes. Fred, the skeptical Skeptic Zone cat. I think Fred's only skeptical when he doesn't get his dinner, actually. Yes, that's when Fred's most skeptical. Then to round off the show, Maynard's spooky action. Maynard visits skeptics in the pub here in Sydney and asks the big question. Now, we've had news of James Randi retiring, and at 86, well... why not, I guess? Maynard asks pub-goers in Sydney, does the skeptical movement need another figurehead like James Randi, and can he be replaced? And right at the end, Maynard catches up with Dr Karl Kruszelnicki a couple of weeks ago at the Triple J party here in Sydney. Dr Karl, of course, a long-time supporter of science and reason in this country. You might think of him as Australia's Bill Nye, the science guy, and Dr. Karl was at TAM last year and was a big hit there. Oh, a couple of weeks ago, you may remember there was an Easter egg on the show, right at the end of the show. Maynard chatting to Dr. Karl about dentists and happy gas and things like that. That was actually recorded 20 years ago or something crazy like that. That was one from the archives. Now, before we get into the show, speaking of supporting the Skeptic Zone, there's another way you can do it. I've just put up on eBay a series of origami posters. As some of you may know, I do lots of origami. I've written books about it, a DVD. I make origami jewellery. Well, I folded up some origami out of money and other things, and did some, I think, rather nice sort of photography work. Made some posters, and they're available on eBay, and that money goes back into the Skeptic Zone. Check those posters out. I always like to think that they would look good at a school, in a school library or something like that. They're quite cheerful posters. There's a link on Skeptic Zone website, www.skepticzone.tv. $50 Australian will get you those posters. Free postage in Australia, and I think a little bit more postage if you're overseas just to cover that cost. Check them out. And don't forget you can order the Vaccination Chronicles DVD as well, autographed by me. For only $12, postage anywhere in the world, and that's for you to enjoy, then copy. And copy and give to your friends and say, friends, copy this and pass it around. The artwork for the cover and the artwork for the DVD itself are embedded in the DVD. So, yeah, if you want to do that and spread the word about vaccination, how important it is. Heaven knows at the moment in California especially, and other parts of the US with the measles outbreak, it's pretty important, and we're going to be hearing more about that in the coming weeks, I'm sure. But now it's time for me to run downstairs, keep going and run out the door, run to my car, jump in my car, drive to a shop, and look, hunt, search for something I had in California, which I just adore. Jalapeno and cheese bagels. Wish me luck in Sydney, folks. If I was in California, I know I'd be heading for those. While I venture out and search for that lovely breakfast, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Now it's time for Dr Rachie Reports with Dr Rachael Dunlop.
I'm here with Dr Rachael Dunlop, who is a cell biologist, which means she specialises in sex in prisons.
What? No.
Cell biology, I don't know. But look, you're moving on. You've got the Joe Bumbenahue thing. You're moving to Melbourne. What's going on? The people want to know. Inquiring minds want to know what's happened to Dr Rachie.
I can't really say, Maynard.
I love that. A bit of intrigue.
But I can say that my funding for my research in Sydney ran out.
Oh, look, I heard people going boo when that happened.
Yes, yeah. So I am going to live in Melbourne for a little while, and then I've got some plans to go elsewhere, but I can't really say.
Fitzroy, maybe Northcote, could go as far as there.
No, I'm going to go to Northcote initially. I might actually go to...
Do some poetry slams, wear a black beret.
Yeah, I might go to Northland, to Preston, maybe, I don't know yet. And then I might even go over seas and oceans and stuff.
Phillip Island?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
God, you are going to get around.
I know, I'm like totally a jet setter, right?
You're going to pretend to be a penguin and get fed for free. This is a Centrelink scam you're running, isn't it?
I can't say that on the radios.
No, she's not. She's not running that.
Internets, I can't say that either.
But yeah, because people are wondering where you've got to there. And you must be pretty, on a personal level, obviously you'd be a bit disgusted with the face of science in Australia at the moment and the way it's being treated. But is it generally, is there a bit of an issue for a lot of scientists in Australia at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got a lot worse in the last 12 months. And people are finally starting to get cranky about it and make noise about it. So,
is it just a funding attitude, or is there a funding issue, or is there an attitude that's going on?
No, I think it's a combination of both, but primarily the biggest problem is funding, and that the CSIRO, which is our sort of hallmark Australian Science Agency, who invented things like, like Wi-Fi and like plastic money and stuff. So they're not actually sitting around doing nothing. They lost 900 staff over the last 18 months because of funding cuts.
What is that as a percentage? That sounds like it's not a small percentage.
No, I don't know what percentage it was, but it was a massive amount of their research staff were gone, including a guy who is people think he's going to get nominated for a Nobel Prize fairly soon. He got knocked off because not knocked off as in like killed, but he was made redundant. But he still comes to work anyway. He still comes to work even though he's not getting paid.
Has he got stuff in the work fridge that he doesn't want to have go off or something?
I don't know. I think he's just like this really generous guy. And he's also, he came to Australia in the 70s on a boat from Vietnam, I think, after the Vietnam War. So he was a boat person, one of those terrorists that, we hear about from the government. And he's contributed a huge amount to research in this country, but now he doesn't have a job either. So there's another guy who has contributed the equivalent of $6 billion to the economy because he worked on solar cells and solar power, and he's lost his job as well.
Wow.
So,
So is there any section that is going ahead at the moment? Is there any area that actually has got the money that other people haven't got?
Yes, the mining industry.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. So, good time to be a geologist now. Now, who's the silly one? You should have been spending a bit more time on your igneous rocks.
Well, and possibly a mining engineer, maybe. I mean, but the mining boom has ended and it is slowing down. But this government seems to be intent on putting money into fossil fuels and not really investing in renewables, but also in the technology and the STEM industries, so science, technology, engineering, maths in Australia, which we're going to need soon because we're going to run out of stuff in the ground. You can't just keep digging stuff out of the ground forever.
Well, we've got about 200 years worth of it, but haven't we?
Yeah, and now
that's just coal, but.
Yeah, but the other issue is who's going to buy it. China's not buying it as much as they used to anymore. So that's one of the biggest problems. Is other countries who we used to rely on to buy it aren't buying.
Tuvalu's just not pulling its weight. Like they've got the .tv web thing, but they aren't buying much of our stuff. They're not buying much coal. They're not buying any uranium. I mean, no, come on.
Because I think they're sinking, actually, Maynard.
Obviously, they don't want to buy anything because it's going to make the island heavier. And you don't want that.
Yeah, because, the planet's warming up and stuff. There was an article in the Australian media just last week about 4 Nobel Prize winners from Australia who came out and had a real go at the government saying, look, this is not just an issue of one industry of people, it's an issue of the country. We've got to invest in something that's not just digging stuff out of the ground because it's not sustainable in terms of economical things. So
there was 3 Nobel Prize winners and 3 ARIA Award winners. The guy with the big hair from Wolfmother came out and he was harsh.
Was he really?
He said, this CSIRO thing's got to stop, he said, but people couldn't understand it because he was talking through his hair.
Well, what does Simon Day have to say about it? Did you ask him today?
He had a hangover and he thinks that we should really throw our money behind a hangover-based recovery.
Right, okay, well, see, that's something that we could pursue and, I'm happy to do that, but, I mean... In fact, up until this point anyway, most of my money had come from America in any case. I'd never got any money from the Australian government in terms of my research, and my clinical trials are being run in America because we can't afford to run them here.
Right. Because if you're wondering exactly what Rachel has been doing, please look up Dr Rachael Dunlop and her work, and there's some nice summaries of it that aren't on PubMed that people can understand.
Oh, yeah, I gab about it all over the place, so, yeah, you'll find it everywhere, yeah.
No, we had to stop her talking. She was talking to some just people in the street. There was some homeless people. She was just trying to say, do you know about the... Oh, shut up. Even they knew. They wouldn't have it. They said, look, just go upstairs with the skeptics, okay? But look, you're looking fine, you're looking great, and whatever you've got ahead of you, I'm sure it's big and bright.
Well, Maynard, I don't have a job anymore, so maybe I'll have time to do some more reports for the show, which would be good, wouldn't it?
That's right. I think you would. You should get in there and get... But you have been on the project a lot, and you've been getting in there hard. Now, I have been asking this of everyone a bit tonight, and that is, if you could banish from the planet only one non-evidence-based modality, which one would you pick?
Only one.
Only one. Queen Rachel is going to speak, and then there will be no more of this, and we must speak of it no more after you ban it. What would it be?
It's going to be controversial, though, what I say, and it might make some people a little bit cranky.
Okay, so what, one non-evidence-based medical modality.
Okay, so I'm going to have to paraphrase it by saying it's only the non-evidence-based section of this modality, which is unfortunately a lot of it, and I'd have to say chiropractic. And I'd have to say that because it's considered mainstream by many people. It's not considered alternative at all, so people don't even know that it's not evidence-based, and it's some of the things they do are quite pernicious because they call themselves doctor.
So where is the line? Is there a rough line where the evidence-based stopped and the non-evidence-based started? Is there one fact that they grab onto that from that point on is non-evidence-based?
Yeah, and that is that there's subluxations, magical subluxations in people's spines that affect their entire health. So if you crack someone's back, it'll prevent them from it'll correct their hearing impairment, or it'll fix their sinuses or something. So that is
it can really change you. I mean, I once had like a bit of a contortion. What do they call it when they do that? When they do the movement?
I don't know.
Well, I had my back cracked, and before that, I never liked the music of The Sharp. But after that, I couldn't get enough of Train of Thought. I could not. It was just amazing.
Maynard,
woo, Train of Thought. Woo, woo.
I didn't actually know that there was a meridian line or whatever for The Sharp.
There is, yeah, and it's interesting because The Sharp, but the Living End, even though they have a similar lineup, didn't affect me. So it was very specific. It was a bit like it was a targeted receptor.
Well, you see, I mean, maybe that's something we should research more, because that could be something we could follow up, although are the Sharps still together?
Yeah, look, no matter, and look, a lot of Australian bands...
You don't even know who the Sharp is.
Look, I know, look, a lot of Australian bands, like Tism of Melbourne, spent years investigating Saturday night palsy. They never found a cure.
That's true. Is it true you're interviewing them soon, Maynard?
I've already spoken to them, and yes, it was to quote Seinfeld, I've interviewed Tism, and it was spectacular.
Did you do it over the phone, though?
Over the Skype, so it's a good quality.
Did you see video of their faces?
No, I didn't. In fact, I actually challenged Damien Cowell. I said, look, the amount of people that told me that they were in the Rolling Stones, how do I know you're actually in Tism?
Yes, I see.
But he did actually, he knew enough to know he was the guy from Tism. And by the way, Skeptics, buy Damien Cowell's Disco Machine album. It's got Sean McAuliffe and Kate Miller-Heidke and Tim Rogers on it, and it's great.
Oh, wow, that sounds excellent. I'll have to look that up.
I mean, who else would write a song that says, I hope you get laid for Christmas? That is a great song, and I'm going to be playing that at Christmas.
Of course you are.
Dr. Rachie, have a good time in Melbourne. So obviously you are wearing a lipstick that's going to be 3 shades redder. You're going to have to do twice as much foundation makeup and get a lot more black into your wardrobe, because that is Melbourne in winter.
Well, I do have a lot of black already, but I had to send a lot of my clothes away to storage because I'm going to somewhere after this where it's different weather. So
Phillip Island.
Phillip Island, yeah, just south of Melbourne. It's quite, different there.
Cool. Well, look, now, and I believe that due to a terrible shipping mistake, most of that's gone to St Vincent de Paul, and everyone's having a great time. There are people...
Error. Yeah. A shipping error.
Shipping error.
Get this.
Dr. Rachie, almost as much fun. Thank you for coming along tonight, and I hope we can see you soon, and come back on the show soon.
I will, Maynard. I'll try.
On maynard.com.au.
Bunga bunga!
Can you give us a brief summary of your time in Canada? Very quickly there, can you explain the country to us, what happens to us, some advice for people visiting Canada?
Oh, Canada. Our home. And
what are you doing?
With what?
No, the words. It sounds... You're speaking it.
I'm singing. It's how I sing.
Just, like, oh...
Oh, Canada.
No, can you do it... Sure, no. Can you do the, melody, like... Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada.
Yeah, that's no.
Canada is the most polite country in the world. You turn up there and the first thing customs say is sorry. Sorry, I need to see your passport. The snow hit at a rate of 5 feet in one night. Bang! You wake up in the morning, you go to open the door, and the door won't open. So you eat a lot of bacon to emotionally cope with it. Everybody has polite conversations because you're all locked up, and nobody wants to be rude because you get put outside. Straighten up, Australia. Wake up to yourself. Prince Philip has not only been the lover of Australia's despot for over 312 years.
Long time.
He is Greek. And what could be more Australian than an old Greek guy shuffling around after some woman going, what, eating food, living the good life, Isn't that the Australian thing? And, of course, another thing about Prince Philip is he doesn't receive any money at all. He's been scraping by for years now, going around Balmoral, busking a little, living off the coins he's given.
Bunga bunga!
On Maynard.com.au.
Bunga bunga!
It's the Raw Skeptic Report with Heidi Robertson.
Hi everyone. So, I have a bit of an update on the raw milk story I did a few weeks ago. After the death of a toddler and illnesses of other children linked to the ingestion of raw milk from a dairy farm in Victoria, the Victorian government has made it mandatory that all raw milk sold must now contain a bittering agent to make it unpalatable. After all, the bittering agent should not matter in the least if the milk is being used to bathe in, as was its advertised purpose. A Rebecca Freer from Melbourne runs 2 Facebook pages, one, the Australian Raw Milk Movement, and 2, the Raw Store. On January the 27th, 2015, the Raw Store posted the following. Come and defend your consumer rights at our raw milk drink-in. Even if you don't care about raw milk, it is in everyone's interests to have control over what food we eat. Let's start wielding our power as consumers and say no to money-making over health-making. Followed by a poster with the details of the time and place to be and a reminder to BYO Cup. The drink-in was held outside the office of Consumer Affairs Minister Jane Garrett. 2 days after that post, The Guardian picked up on the story with the headline, Raw Milk Drink-In in Melbourne Denounced by Health Experts. From that article, quote, a leading infectious disease physician and microbiologist, Professor Peter Collignan, said he was concerned by the drink-in and that uninformed people may try the product thinking raw also meant healthy. I would advise no one to participate, he said. If they try to say to people raw milk is more pure, they are wrong and are trying to get people to do something dangerous, he said. The Raw Milk Movement page then posted the following a couple of days later. The phone is running hot today with The Age and The Guardian both asking about our drink-in. Apparently, according to The Guardian journalist, our drink-in is disrespectful to the families of the children that allegedly became unwell because of the milk. Wow, isn't it pretty disrespectful to accuse a farmer of producing and selling killer milk with zero evidence? When did it become disrespectful to assert your rights and have an opinion? I think it's fair to say we are in the midst of violent resistance. At least we have moved on from denial. Get ready, people, the fight is on. The drink-in went ahead with the attendees protesting against the new law and footage of parents feeding their children raw milk and wearing T-shirts saying, hands off our milk. Rebecca Freer led the protest and when interviewed there by the ABC, said that unpasteurised milk should be regulated and not banned. She said, quote, but there has to be certain things happening for it to be safe. So if you look at other parts of the world, they're very clear on stipulating that the cows need to be really healthy, the cows are grass-fed, these are not factory farm cows, end quote. When I headed on over to the Raw Store's website, therawstore.net.au, I was greeted by a photo of a homemade sign being held up by 2 hands, but an unseen face. The sign stated in large black lettering, I drink raw milk, arrest me. Interesting that the person holding that provocative sign wishes to remain anonymous. So, they are no longer pretending that the milk is being used for bathing in. So how do they justify selling milk, which is illegal to sell for human consumption? Here's their theory, from the Australian Raw Milk page. Not all of us have the luxury of being able to support a house cow in our backyards, so those people wanting to obtain it in this manner often chose to purchase a share of an animal and pay the producer to look after the cow, milk it and deliver the milk to them, the milk they legally own as part of the agreement with the producer. This arrangement is called a herd share or cow share. The milk is not sold. The consumer owns the animal and is merely receiving the milk they are entitled to as the owner of the animal. The producer simply cares for the animal and distributes the milk to them. This is legal under the current legislation as the milk is not being sold. This is also the defence that a South Australian couple are currently using in court. They're on trial for selling raw milk via a cowshare scheme. In April 2013, an investigator from South Australian Primary Industries and Resources bought a share of their herd and had the milk tested. The results were that there were microbiological levels well in excess of those allowed by food standards. That couple brought one of their dairy cows to court with them. They also had a shareholder turn up to court in a cow onesie, declaring her support for the couple. She said that she was allowed by law to drink alcohol and eat junk food, so she should also be allowed by law to drink raw milk. Here's another quote from that shareholder in a story by the ABC. "I have gone to visit the farm, but I have not gone specifically to visit my cow. If there was a label on my cow, I could certainly identify my cow. I believe it's a Friesian." The physiotherapist and gym owner admitted she received milk from cows other than her own because the milk from all cows on the property was pooled before distribution. Mr. Tyler from the farm said pooling the milk prevented health risks. Part of the reason for pooling all the milk into one vat and refrigerating it quickly is to protect the health of the shareholders, he said. It would go against the best interests of the participants if we had to milk each cow individually and do it all separately. The trial will resume in March. So what were other supporters and shareholders saying on social media? Well, there were comments such as, "The sun causes melanoma, let's ban the sun," and "Junk food is killing us, why don't they ban that?" There were also others saying that raw milk very rarely causes deaths, so everyone is having a knee-jerk reaction to the death of this toddler. Nice. I noticed that no one that I could see was posting anything about A, the morbidity rates associated with ingesting raw milk, and B, what the relative risks were of raw milk versus pasteurised milk consumption. So I posted some CDC statistics on one of the raw milk movement threads. Quote, "From 1998 through 2011, 148 outbreaks due to consumption of raw milk or raw milk products were reported to the CDC. These resulted in 2,384 illnesses, 284 hospitalisations and 2 deaths." End quote. I also commented that hospitalisations result not just from vomiting and diarrhoea. Guillain-Barré syndrome can occur, leading to paralysis, and hemolytic uremic syndrome can result, leading to kidney failure and stroke. My comments were promptly deleted and I've been banned from commenting further on the page. Tangent. That's about the 6th or 7th Facebook page I've been banned from. Others include the Australian Vaccination Skeptics Network, Food Babe, Pete Evans, a pro-Black Salve page and a particular Northern Rivers Vets page. He provides homeopathic alternatives to vaccination in animals. I can't say I've ever seen a pro-science page ever delete someone who's had valid facts on their side. Anyway, so what does the CDC say about relative risk? Quote, "The incidence of reported outbreaks from 1993 to 2006 involving non-pasteurised dairy products was around 150 times greater per unit of dairy product consumed than the incidence involving pasteurised products. If, as is probably likely, less than 1% of dairy products are consumed non-pasteurised, then the relative risk per unit of non-pasteurised dairy product consumed would be even higher." And this, quote, "The hospitalisation rate for patients in outbreaks caused by raw milk was 13 times higher, 13% versus 1%, than the rate for people in outbreaks caused by pasteurised milk. This difference is probably partly because the outbreaks caused by raw milk were all caused by bacterial infections that tend to be more severe. For example, E. coli O157H7, a bacterium that can cause kidney failure and death, was a common cause of outbreaks due to raw milk. For outbreaks caused by pasteurised milk, relatively mild viral infections and foodborne toxins were more common causes." End quote. Perhaps, if you know all the risks of ingesting raw milk that is not straight from the cow, and you still choose to do it, you should be able to. The issue is that this product is being fed to children all around the country who rely on their caregivers to protect them from harm. We strap our kids into their car seats, we don't shove cigarettes in their mouth or give them alcohol to drink. Perhaps we should also avoid giving them a product that has no proven benefits above pasteurised milk, but which has a much higher risk associated with it. That's it from me. Take a look at our group's website. We are the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters and can be found at nrvs.info, on Facebook at Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters, or on Twitter at NRVaxSupporters, that's VAX. Thanks, till next time.
Hi, I'm Finn. And I'm Rebecca, and we're the Skepticons. Skepticons is an Irish podcast by the Dublin Skeptic Society. It takes a conversational, irreverent look at science, news and skeptical topics from an Irish perspective. You can find us at www.theskepticons.com. You're always spirit with your strong finance.
The Skeptic Zone is brought to you by Dr Bob's Trivia Quiz. Visit drbobsquiz.wordpress.com and see if you can match wits with Dr Bob.
And now I'm absolutely delighted to be talking to the mysterious Dr. Bob from Dr. Bob's Trivia Quiz, otherwise known as Steve Roberts. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
I'm fine. Now, this quiz, Dr. Bob's Quiz, what's the history about that?
Oh, long ago. I'm from Melbourne. I'm in the Melbourne Skeptics, and every Christmas we put a light-hearted quiz on. We had monthly meetings, which they are still going, in fact, in a pub in Lygon Street. And every Christmas I put this trivia quiz on. It got sort of formed into a cult of its own, and this is before the days of the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
But when the web came in, it was on the Skeptics web page. There was a link to a quiz on the web page, and it's now not actually on the Skeptics web page as such. It has a page of its own, but there's a link to it, and anybody can go there and have a click at it. But the quiz is not a sort of test of knowledge. You know, I thought, well, you can ask questions like, you know, how old's the Earth? Is it 6,000 years old or 4 billion years old? You know, and if you tick 6,000 years old, bad answer, no biscuit. You know, no point for that. You know, so you're conducting like an interrogation or an examination on sceptical policy.
Yeah,
and you can tell off people who don't conform. And I thought, no, it's not like that. You know, people know this stuff already. So why not put some light-hearted factoids in, like, you know, did the Titanic go left or right of the iceberg? And this is the days before the Titanic was discovered and not much was known.
Left?
It went left,
Ah.
Yeah. There is actually a reason why it went left.
Right.
You can ask a question like that, and the question does have an answer.
Yeah.
And I used to read, I still read a lot of obscure books. And again, before Wikipedia really buggers my quiz up.
But you try to pose questions that people can't run to Google or Wikipedia to find out.
Well, there's not many questions you can't find on Wikipedia.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, you read something obscure in a book, you know, like how much urine was in Hitler's bladder when he committed suicide.
Good grief.
There's an obscure Russian autopsy which I've read, which is now thought to be forged, but at the time it was thought to be real. It turns out that Hitler actually did go to the bog before he shot himself. Goebbels did not. And not many people know this, you know, so you can ask a question about it. And
that's obscure.
Very obscure. And as the quiz makes clear, you know, I already know the answers, so what I want is something witty, you know.
So you're more interested in people using their imaginations to come up with interesting answers.
Answers that other people can then read. So you can. I asked, you know, in 1899 there was a world land speed record held in France, and various vehicles entered. The winning vehicle did about 65 miles an hour. How was it propelled? And actually, the answer is electricity. It was driven by batteries.
Wow.
But I got answers in like testosterone or vanity, which are actually better than the real answer.
They're funnier. They're better.
They're better than the real answer.
So you score according to imagination, not necessarily the right answer.
I don't score at all.
You don't score at all?
I just look at the answers. I used to appoint a winner every month, but it's all the same people who do it. So if you Google on Dr. Bob's trivia quiz, it'll come up, and it's still going, but it's getting harder and harder to find questions, and I'm kind of not very web savvy, so I've recently been able to put pictures on it, but it's taken me some time to find out how.
Yeah.
But it's easier with pictures. You can put a picture of something up and say, what's this?
Yeah.
And people can have a shot at it. But,
all right. Well, that's great. Well, thanks for dropping by, Steve. In the coming weeks, I'll ask you little bits and pieces, some other topics. I know you've been a long-time skeptic and a skeptical supporter. And, on behalf of the Skeptic Zone and the listeners, thank you for being a sponsor of the show.
Oh, no worries, Richard.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science you need to know. 2014 was a great year for science, but how will 2015 compare? Here's 3 exciting things that we're watching out for. Firstly, we've got high hopes for NASA's New Horizons mission to study Pluto and its moons. Launched in 2006 and hibernating since, the spacecraft was woken up late 2014 to prepare for its encounter with the Pluto system, some 3 billion miles from Earth. One difficulty will be communicating with the spacecraft across such a long distance. To give you some idea, the wake-up messages from New Horizons took nearly 4.5 hours to reach Earth. The mission is to study Pluto and its moons to understand more about them and how they fit in our solar system. The New Horizons spacecraft will then continue on to study the Kuiper Belt, a rocky region surrounding our solar system made up of icy remnants from when the solar system was formed. In 2015, 2 Swiss explorers will attempt to circumnavigate the globe in a solar-powered plane. It's a single-seat aircraft made of carbon fibre. With a wingspan of 72 metres, it's wider than a Boeing 747, but it weighs just 2,300 kilograms. Covering the wings are 17,000 solar cells, running 4 electric motors. During the day, the solar cells recharge 663 kilograms of lithium batteries, so the aircraft can fly at night. Their 35,000-kilometre journey is expected to take around 500 total flying hours, with only 10 stops. This project could be a breakthrough for solar-powered flight, but at an average speed of 70 kilometres an hour, it's probably some time before it will be used commercially. And finally, we think you should keep an eye on the Bloodhound SSC project from the UK. The Bloodhound supersonic car will attempt to break the current land speed record. The aim is 1,000 miles per hour, or over 1,600 kilometres per hour. Given that the current record is 763 miles per hour, this is a massive jump. The project is run by Richard Noble and features pilot Andy Green. Together they hold the current land speed record. The reason for attempting to break their own record is to inspire school students to study science, technology, engineering and maths at university. Their record attempts will be in 2016, but 2015 will see their first high-speed test in the car. That's our 2015 watch list. There's more information on the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. I'm Tania Meyer and we'll catch you next week.
Jeg er Marit.
Og jeg er Kristin. Og vi vil tipse deg som norsk lytter av The Skeptic Zone om skeptikermiljøet i Norge.
Det finnes norske blogger og pubtreff og podcast, og Foreningen Skepsis driver med ulike former for aktivisme.
Sentralt er skepsis.no, og her publiseres det dyptpløyende artikler, en kalender over skeptiske aktiviteter og lenker til andre skeptiske ressurser.
Skepsisbloggen oppdateres jevnlig, og det diskuteres heftig på Skepsisforumet, så stikk innom og delta du også.
Skepsis.no.
Hello, I'm Marit.
And I'm Kristin, and we want to let you know that there are lots of Norwegian skeptics for you to get to know.
There are blogs and pub meets and a podcast, and the Norwegian Skeptics also do paranormal tests and consumer activism.
To find out more, Google Norwegian Skeptics or visit skepsis.no.
here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
People rushing, people hushing, people shushing, people going, get out of my lap, because it's all happening here at Skeptics in the Pub, the Crown Hotel, first Thursday of each month. It goes off. And who we got here?
David,
I've spoken to you a few times, and of course James Randi has announced he's retiring. Do we need leaders still in the skeptical movement, or is it a bit more organic? Do we really need people like that at this point?
probably not anymore, but he did start the entire movement along with Carl Sagan, I think. So I think it'll get along quite okay without him.
So we don't need a replacement? You aren't thinking of growing a beard?
No, I don't think I could grow a white beard anyway at my age.
Well, look, the word on the street is he bleaches his anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you reckon it is a bit more organic now?
It'll probably go along by itself.
Okay, James Randi's retiring. You've got a bit of a beard there. You could grow the beard. You could bleach it a bit. You could be the new James Randi. Do we need leaders like that in the skeptical movement now?
I think when James Randi did his served a good purpose to get it all started. I mean, he's got to take it easy now. I mean, and there are others who can sort of up there with him. I think it'll go on quite swimmingly without him. And
Okay, well, so you think we're a bit more organic now? Don't need leaders.
We need leaders, but we don't. We could probably go quite well without somebody up as heavyweight as Randi.
I'm here at the bar, which is where the true opinions are heard. In fact, if you're not at the bar, really, you're wasting your time. So with James Randi moving on, do we need leaders, sir?
I think we still always need leaders. You know, otherwise you're just a bunch of cats. I mean, skeptics are hard enough to hurt as it is.
Well, have you got any suggestions?
Oh, geez, I don't know. Who would take his place? Maybe Stephen Novella?
Or any of that team?
Any of that team, actually. They're all well-spoken. They're great. Evan Bernstein, you know, the brothers. And yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and it was a bit. I knew Randi was getting on a bit, but I didn't know he was going to officially announce his retirement. I thought he was just going to sort of slowly sort of fade away there and go, okay, I won't do as much. But it's like, that's it. I'm putting my feet up.
That's right. That's what I would have thought. I would have thought he just would have been there till whenever he decided he couldn't do it.
I reckon he's decided to retire because he's finally going to shave.
Maybe that's it. And he'll never be recognised again.
No one will know who it is anyway, so yeah, exactly.
That's right. Sounds like a plan, Maynard.
Well, here's someone with a strong opinion, and they haven't even finished their meal, and they've got a strong opinion. The glass is only half empty, and you have a strong opinion. What do you think?
I love James Randi.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a shame he is retiring. My theory is that he's actually decided to shave, so no one would know what he looked like anyway if he did. But you know, I mean, it's not like he didn't give it a big dash. I mean, shouldn't he put his feet up?
Yes, he deserves a wonderful retirement, but yeah, we need figureheads like him to come forward.
Any suggestion who might be someone that would be of a similar ilk that could not so much replace him, but do the sort of thing?
Richard Saunders.
That's true, and I've got to say, he probably would cut quite a figure with a beard.
Yes. It just, give him some time,
Have you gentlemen got any thoughts about this at all?
No, just love James Randi. Not sure who. There's got to be someone in the James Randi Foundation who could succeed him. He's put in a lot of work over the years.
Have you got an opinion on this at all, sir?
Yep, I think there should always be people to do all the things that James Randi has done, because the charlatans are just going to keep on coming.
And what's the woo that really gets your goat, by the way? I often ask people this. Well, what's the woo? Is it astrology, or what's the one that really annoys you the most?
That's a hard one. I just hate cults in general, but in terms of general New Age woo, I probably think homeopathy is right up on the list.
Well, I've moved to a different part of the room where the red wine is flowing. We're in the red wine section of the Crown Hotel here. Now, what do you think of the issue of the evening about do we need a replacement for James Randi? Do we need a figurehead?
Well, I think it's always good to have a charismatic person who is out there spruiking your organisation.
So have you any suggestions?
Well, they need to be sceptical and charismatic, so
a few people have said maybe comedians, if we've got sceptical comedians or people who are of that ilk, because they know how to think on their feet and they know how to handle a press conference. They might not have the scientific backing, but they'd be able to sell.
I think it's more important to have the substance, and then you find someone who's got the facility, to put the message across, personally.
So we're looking for an Australian Stephen Fry, is that what you mean?
No, that would be good, but I don't think that there is such a thing, sadly.
Thank you. Well, do you think we still need a figurehead like that in the movement or not?
I think we have many of them, and when you look at Richard Dawkins and the Skeptic Guides, the Universe crew, and there's heaps of them, and then Merseyside guys and what they do. And
I'm thinking Jay Novella, teach him a bit of escapology, put a fake beard on him, he can do Tam.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of characters in the movement that will progress it along, and new ones will come through. And obviously we've got Richard here in Australia. So
I'm also thinking, how about Teller? I mean, Teller talks when he's not part of the act. He could be, Teller could be the new James Randi. What do you think, sir? Or he's still, you're fanging into those chips. Haven't you eaten for 2 weeks?
No, I haven't.
Well, what do you reckon about the whole James Randi retiring thing? Or is it just another magic act? He'll be back. I
have to be honest, I actually thought he'd already retired because he stepped down from the presidency of the JRF.
I thought he was winding it back, but he's sort of officially drawn a line under it, yeah.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. He's not exactly young anymore.
Yeah, 86, is it?
86?
Yeah.
Well, don't blame him. Time to have a break.
Everyone's going, why'd you take so long?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you think there's anyone that could replace him?
I don't think we need a single figurehead. Like was said before, I think there are plenty of prominent people that can stand up and say things and get noticed by the media.
Now, something people have been mentioning to me as I've asked this tonight is some people have been saying, well, maybe we need someone who's a bit of a comedian or someone who's a bit more of a public speaker and is fast on their feet rather than the science backing to represent the skeptics sometimes. How do you feel about that?
Well, I actually think it's more about who's credible and who can get the media's attention, because there's no real leader of the skeptic movement. It's like trying to herd cats. It's more like who's a spokesman. And I think there's room for multiple very prominent spokesmen.
Now, does anyone come to mind? You're thinking Steady Eddie, someone like that?
Well, in Australia, Dr Karl is definitely a big voice of skepticism, and pretty much everyone in Australia knows who he is.
Well, there you go. Well, that's something. Okay, thanks for your help.
My name's Neil.
Neil, what do you reckon with James Randi retiring? Does the skeptical movement need a figurehead, or can it be more organic and just go on without necessary personalities like that?
So just back. He's retiring.
Yeah, well, he's 86, and he said that's it. I'm gonna. They're not going to do the amazing meeting after the next one, and he's going to he's not going to do the skeptical stuff officially anymore.
So if he's retiring, does this mean he's going to start believing in things? Like, is he going to convert? Is he going to go to the other side? Is he going to start, thinking about? Is he going to start using aromatherapy? And
shave his beard?
Well, yes. Believe in a deity. These things that go along with retirement.
This is interesting because I'm sure we'll have to read the press release, because the devil might be in the details here. He might be saying, I'm going to stop being a skeptic altogether. You might have uncovered something here, Neil.
Well, I think it's always important to read the fine print. And as you say, the devil is in the detail. Where is he going with this? We need to know.
So can we expect to see him on the home shopping channel selling crystals?
Well, I was actually thinking he'd be doing a guest appearance in Crossing Over.
That'd be Crossing Over with James Randi.
Yeah, that's what he means by retiring.
And we've got Dr Karl, who I think you were actually broadcasting before there was Double J. You were probably out in William Street reading a science report before there was even a transmitter. You go back that far.
I'll go back to when there was not radio even invented, when Single J was just simply a guy with a loud voice shouting loud in the backyard. Now, my very first appearance was 1975, when I went on to Double J to talk about my anti-gravity machine. And then there were one or two other bits and pieces in between. Then I reappeared in 1981 for the launch of the first space shuttle, and then have been there ever since.
What made them think, hey, we really need this science reporter there? Because there was nothing like that going on radio at the time. Was that simply the reason?
Tony Barrell. Tony Barrell was a man of great insight and foresight. So he could be deep and yet see what would be a necessary trend. And at one stage, I got flicked off from Triple J by one of the managers who said, basically, we've discovered everything there is to know about science, so we don't need you anymore. off.
Well, so you've been vindicated because people love science information. It's really come of age now.
It's always been there. It's basically answering curiosity, because science is not a bunch of facts. Science is just simply a way to understand the world around us. And I'm very lucky to have been able to have a platform such as Double J, then Triple J, on which to expound that.
What has been the science fact that has blown your tiny mind and that of the listeners over all the years? There's so many strange things.
There's two of them now.
Two of them, okay.
First one is that all the gold you'll ever see, such as the gold in my wedding ring, was manufactured, or this gold was manufactured inside a star as it exploded.
And we're not going to get any more.
Number two, you might think that the sun is a mighty beast, but the compost pile in my backyard, in terms of how much energy it generates per kilogram, is 40,000 times more powerful.
What?
Correct.
Oh, wow.
So the sun is very powerful, but it's very big and lazy. So at any given moment, there's only a few hundred hydrogen atoms undergoing fusion.
That's pretty amazing, Karl, and that's why he continues to be on the radio. What is the major scientific advancement or discovery you think that's around the corner that is really going to trick your imagination next? Have you got an inkling?
In terms of what's going to affect people, I would say 3D printing. 3D printing is either the small scale, where you've got a small box in your house where you can make a gun if you want to be crazy, or something that's the size of 3 warehouses, and Boeing has been using them to make metal parts for the inside of 25,000 jet engines. The environment inside a jet engine is truly hostile. Thousands, not hundreds of degrees centigrade, wind rushing past at several hundred kilometres per hour. And in the future, everybody will have a 3D printer at home in the same way everybody's got a computer. It'll be a box about the size of a microwave. It'll have 92 feedstocks, one for each element of the periodic table. And if you want to get a new smartphone, you pay a couple of $100 and then start it going. In the morning there, it'll be inside your 3D printer, and it'll have atoms of tantalum and titanium and silicon and copper and so forth. The 3D printer is going to revolutionise manufacturing.
Does that mean we'll also make food for us?
They've already used 3D printers to make food. You'll be able to make a violin, a vaccine, a stub axle for your car, a smartphone, a house, a car, and in fact another 3D printer.
But will you be able to manufacture love, Dr. Karl?
Love and life. Maybe quantum mechanics has the answer for those. We still don't know.
Dr. Karl Kruszelnicki, thank you for chatting to us.
Thank you, Dr. Maynard.
The Skeptic magazine, the journal from Australian skeptics. Subscribe online to the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. Visit www.skeptics.com.au and click the publications link. You can also find there over 30 years of back issues free to download. The Skeptic, the magazine from Australian skeptics. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, and happy birthday, by the way. Well, I didn't have any luck finding my bagel. Oh well, I'll just have to settle for egg on toast. Don't forget, you people in Victoria, coming up in a few weeks, we have the Surf Coast Skeptic Camp. More news about that next week. Now, here's a little tip for people in Australia, especially in the capital cities, but I'm pretty sure you could do this just about everywhere. There's a free magazine, comes out I think once a month, called Nova, N-O-V-A. You'll find it out the front of New Age shops or health food shops or things like that. It's called Australia's Holistic Journal, established 1994. I'm going to have a copy here. It's really worth getting. We use it at the skeptical movement for research, for ideas, what's coming up. Here we go. What's this? John Martin, World Master Healing, 2015. 12 cities, 1 day. 12 cities, 1 day. Oh, it's already gone. I wonder if he healed anybody. It's full of ads. It's full of ads for all sorts of, shall I say, improbable things. There's crystal healing here. What else is Psychic Sisters, 30 years plus experience. What else is this one? Afterlife, a guided tour of the heavens and its wonder. A guided tour of the heavens. Well, that's pretty hard to pass up that opportunity. GeoCleanse, a simple solution for all your electromagnetic radiation in your home. Buy this little device in, plug it in, and give us your money. All sorts of things. And articles and bits and pieces. What's this one? Drug-free pain relief. Unseen energies. And it's got up-and-coming events, like when the next Mind-Body wallet will be. Worth checking out. It's free. They just give it away. Good for research. Good to see what the other side are thinking. Well, that's enough for this week. Until next week, this is Richard Saunders, without a bagel. Oh, happy birthday, by the way. Signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.